for the second time this year when the total Swartland Rally came to town. The penultimate round of the Sasol South African Rally Championship started and finished at Cape Town's Killarney Racing Circuit, with 10 stages offering the competing crews a total special distance of 197 kilometers. Conditions were expected to be smooth and fast, although heavy rain had compromised the going in some areas. A total of 42 entries would ensure plenty of close, high-speed rally action.
While 2 of the class winners had already been decided, the overall championship was poised on a knife's edge, with all the main protagonists still in the title hunt. Going into the total Swartland Rally, Jürgen Fecken and Pierre Arries enjoyed a slim lead of only 1 point in their S2000 BP Volkswagen Polo, ahead of teammates and defending champions Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson. Tying for 3rd place were the ace pairing of Serge Damso and Robert Paisley in their Castrol Toyota Run-X, and the 3rd BP VW Racing Polo in the hands of Jan Habik and Douglas Judd. In Class N4, for near-standard production cars, all eyes would be on the Konica Minolta Subaru WRX STI of Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich. After 2 big crashes, the car had finally been returned to its full specification, and Wilkin was expected to be quick. However, protecting their championship lead would be Visser Duplessis and Dave Lefkowitz in their Pertec Creepy Crawly Subaru STI, while defending N4 champions Nicholas Ryan and Schalk van Heerden were also getting to grips with their latest spec Bosel Johnny's Way Subaru STI. Fernando Reuter and Gerard Snyman were equally intent on a strong finish in their team total Mitsubishi Lancer Evo after a topsy-turvy season, while Paul Pfeiffer and Cindy Harding would be more than quick enough to upset the N4 apple carts.
True to its title, the event kicked off in the wheat fields of the Swartland, where the first 2 stages run near the hamlet of Mariarsburg. The conditions here are generally smooth and fast, although 6 weeks of heavy rain had resulted in some ruts and road damage. This stage included a tight farmyard section, which is always a spectator favourite. First on the road were Kuhn and Hodgson, setting a blistering pace in the BP Volkswagen Racing Polo. Clearly intent on leading from the front, the duo set the fastest time, but only by a second from an equally determined Damso and Paisley. Gemmel and Marsh were a further 2 seconds back in the second Castrol Toyota Run-X. Gemmel's maiden victory was this very event in 2001, and he was keen to repeat that feat. JP Damso is following in his father's rallying footsteps, although he's found the move to S2000 a challenge. He was a second behind Gemmel. Fecken let it all hang out, but perhaps he was trying a little too hard. 5th place was the result. Let's join team totals Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermeulen on the stage.
Caution, bump turn open left 4 before house. Open long right 9 over bumps in narrow. Right. Turn left 7 over gate. 200 downhill. There's dip left 2 over gate, great.
Handling problems meant Lawrence trailed Kuhn by 9 seconds here. In the production car class, Vulcan and Godrich made the early running. They were fastest in N4 and 2 seconds quicker than Habik and Judd, also struggling with suspension settings.
So after the first 13-kilometre stage, a mere 15 seconds covered the first 8 cars, while the spread between the top 6 S2000 teams was only 9 seconds. The stage surface was taking a pounding under the S2000 onslaught, with ruts already starting to appear. In Class A7, Theuns Hubert and Llewellyn Fourie were pressing on in their Salem Brokers VW Polo. They were 3rd in class, trailing the team total Run-X of Chris de Wit and Dean Redlinghuis. But it was Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin who continued their A7 domination with the fastest A7 stage time. Ryan, who hasn't always been on top form this year, was looking more confident in the Cape. His time was only a second off the Guma S2000 Polo of the young John Williams and father Doug. Du Plessis shared the second fastest N4 time with Fernando Reuter. The Spaniard was struggling to find his rhythm in the Team Total Lancer Evo. But quickest N4 on the event opener were Paul Pfeiffer and Cindy Harding, looking very committed. Even so, the times were close. Only 3 seconds covered the top 4 N4 cars.
Stage 2 was the second of the day's 2 Swartland gravel stages, with a couple of water splashes and tight sections between the fast and furious parts to keep the crews on their toes. With more than 30 kilometers to cover and the rally still in its infancy, it was the first real test of man and machine. Despite the rain in the weeks preceding the event, conditions were generally good, with many of the stage roads smooth and very, very fast. The crews were often hitting the limiter in top gear, indicating speeds in the region of 200 kilometers an hour. Vulcan was ominously smooth, if not quite as aggressive as on previous events. JP Damso looked quicker than his 7th best S2000 time suggested. Habik's Polo didn't like the water. A misfire cost him about 25 seconds. That helped Lorenz up to 5th best stage time. Becken hit the splash with a vengeance, but got away cleanly. Gemmell was piloting the Castrol Ranix with great gusto, proving that he's finally found his S2000 feet. But he couldn't match Serge Damso, who took the stage win if only by a second. It meant that Enzo and Serge were now tied for the lead after 2 stages. The A7 battle behind Cronier was starting to look intriguing. The aging Sasol Golf of Barry Grobler and Grant Martin already looked a little worse for wear and was fighting it out with the Team Total Ranix of Chris de Wit.
In N4, Lola and Megan Verlaque were driving an older Subaru, having sold their Africa Rally Championship car. They trailed Team Total teammate Reuter's Lancer Evo by 47 seconds on this stage. Cronier continued his giant killing ways, beating Reuter by a second in his A7 Castrol Ranix. He also came within 13 seconds of the Williams S2000 Polo. Amazingly, Williams and the next 3 cars finished with exactly the same time. Fisser Du Plessis' main concern here was to retain his N4 championship lead. Ryan's was to shrink that advantage. A new entrant in the A7 fray was Gugu Zulu, who became the first black driver to win a national rally title by wrapping up Class A5 at the Osram Rally. He was still getting used to his new BP Polo.
You know, I think at this moment in time, I'm not really concentrating 100%. I'm just still smiling with excitement of just the, realization that I'm actually driving an A7 car. It's a thrill. It takes a bit of getting used to in terms of the gearing and so on. This one, it's actually got a sequential box and a lovely handbrake lever, which is nice and upright. And that has to, obviously, it's a major change. I don't have to use the clutch as much as I used to with my other car. And yeah, the speed is there, but that's a bit relative, really. I mean, it's just a quick acceleration. And it's just a matter of getting used to the gearing and the braking marks, as I said.
Keane and Hodgson were now tying with Serge and Paisley for the lead with 3 Mickey Mouse stages to go. Habik's woes saw him languishing in 7th, with Vulcan fastest of the N4s. A large crowd had gathered at the Killarney racetrack for the first of the 3 tar stages. Drivers with track experience like Vulcan relished the challenge, while other crews were less enthusiastic. Fisser Du Plessis was a case in point. He was fortunate to recover from this huge spin.
I thought, well, let's improve, and we dropped the car without checking the toe-ins and stuff. And the front wheels and back wheels went 3 millimeters toe-in. And believe it or not, in 2 stages I lost it 3 times, going in a spin and doing 170 k's an hour once. But the car was quite uncontrollable. It was actually good luck that we're still here today.
Vulcan and Raider were at its hammer and tongs, but Du Plessis' Subaru continued its wayward antics. only 9 seconds separating the top 8, there was little to choose between the front runners. Gemmell was the fastest man on the day, with Surge making it a 1-2 for Toyota. But most of the S2000s were right on the pace, sliding their steeds around Killarney in spectacular fashion. Johnny Gemmell was in high spirits.
The first stage was terribly slippery, very slippery. Stage 2 was not bad, bit better, and now we've just done some tarmac. It's quite good. We just took this one. So we're 3 overall behind Enzo and 5 behind Surge.
Was also hotting up, albeit behind the flying Cronier. Gugu made the most of his track experience to outpace Chris DeWitt, while local boy Mike Nathan turned up the wick in the old ex-Lawrence Corolla to put all but Cronier to shame, and in spectacular fashion. And Harding were next up in the stage results. They couldn't match the pace of Ryan, and nudging the barrier didn't help. A flying Cronier pipped them both. In fact, the ex-karting world champ was only 2 seconds off the time of Williams in the much faster S2000. Part of the attraction of these tar-based specials are the spills, the spins and the near misses. Regional racer Jean Duplessis was one of the favourites. Bacchus misjudged this corner under pressure from Vusi Mbanga, with shattering results for both crews. The 2 A5 participants pulled off the track to lick their wounds, while the marshals cleaned up the track. The top 3 was still split by mere seconds after stage 3, with the S2000 cars clearly dominating proceedings. In N4, Wilkin and Godrich remained the team to beat. This coverage of the Total Swartland Rally is brought to you by
African Motorsport. As darkness fell, it was time for the first of 2 super special stages that pit 2 cars at a time against each other on the track. The pressure of competing against another crew head-to-head can lead to mistakes, and every second counts. No less than 3 cars tied for the top spot, while the top 10 were covered by only 3 seconds. Most surprising of all was Wilkin, who put his track experience to good use to score a time just 1 second off the fastest S2000s. The close results also underline just how important the margins gained on the earlier gravel stages had now become. The so-called slower N4 cars weren't far off the S2000s, and the A7s were also getting mixed up in the fray. The difference between JP Damso in the fastest of the S2000 and Tian Hubert's A7 Polo in 20th spot was a mere 12 seconds. evening's second super special proved just as spectacular and as close as the first, with the times again very closely matched. Gemmell was quickest, followed by Serge and Etienne in a tied second. The next four were all only 2 seconds back on the leader and included Cronje in the indecently quick A7 Runx. Both the BP Volkswagen Racing Polos of Kuhn and Habich spun, losing precious seconds in the process. Habich blamed cold tyres and brakes on the faux pas. He was languishing well back in 7th place and clearly not enjoying the rally.
It was a difficult start to this rally. We had a handling problem in the first stage, and then we got that fixed up, and then the second stage we went through water and got water into the electrics and misfire for 5-6 Ks. Another 20 seconds missing, so not a good start, but you know, there's still a couple of stages left and we'll try our best.
Lawrence was also struggling.
Man, I'm basically the guinea pig for some setups that we've done, by choice as well, but I'm trying every stage to do adjustments. It's getting better, but I'm not on the pace yet. So I think hopefully by tomorrow it is handling the rough stuff a little bit better, but we now had to sacrifice traction, which we're working on. So not on the pace yet, and we're just holding it there.
On the N4 front, Fernando Reuter was hoping for a strong showing, even though he's blown his chances for the championship. But the Cape-based Spaniard was struggling to get to grips with his Mitsubishi.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great one for us yet. We can't really find a rhythm. You know, we had a very nice rhythm in the last few rallies, and we're just sickling a bit. The car feels quite good, so we can't really see why or why not. I've got a few things to change for the gravel, and hopefully it'll work. It's mainly just a bit of lack of confidence. You know, when we're braking a bit early, I think I'm braking a bit too early, and obviously the stopwatch doesn't like that.
Thus, at the end of day one, with 5 stages complete, Serge and Gemmell were in a Toyota 1-2 at the head of the field, but with 2 BP VW Polos breathing down their necks, less than 10 seconds behind. Looking at the classes, Versaghi and Legrandzi were heading in 3, with Stephen Wilken and Gert Nienaber heading up A6. In A5, Char Conradi and Alvin Kutsia were still setting the pace.
Saturday dawned partly cloudy, with some predicting the possibility of rain. Stage 6 was a rerun of Stage 1, and most of the crews hoped to do better second time round. Most had opted for normal rubber on the first day, but some now chose wets in the hope of finding just that little bit of extra grip. However, many of the stages had been punished by the procession of rally cars, and the route was rutted and rough in places, mitigating against faster times. John Williams hasn't shown his full potential in the fast and tricky S2000 Volkswagen Polo this year, but is slowly getting to grips with the car. JP Damso is the other new entrant to the S2000 fray, and he too has not always been able to make the most of his Team Total Runx's speed and traction. The cars are not only very rapid but complex to set up, something that only comes with experience. After a torrid first day, Habich and Judd were on a mission, but they still dropped 10 seconds to the leaders here. Team colleagues Kuhn and Hodgson were only 3 seconds quicker, but looked on the edge. Lawrence, now happier with his car setup, was driving with increased confidence. Fecken, leading the championship, now needed to get the bit between his teeth if he was intent on attacking the leading Toyotas. Although pressing on, he tied with Kuhn and Lawrence for joint third. On this stage, the Polo speed was obvious. But it wasn't fast enough to pip Gemmell to the post. The Toyota driver wasn't hanging about, and with only a handful of seconds separating him from the lead, it looked as if he was trying to chase down Damso. But Serge is always difficult to beat on his home soil, and he looked very much in control. There's life in the old dog yet.
Local hero Mike Nathan had acquired the services of navigator Robin Houghton and was pushing his Toyota Corolla hard. He was second fastest in A7 here, behind the Quicksilver Cronje. So the Lark sisters were enjoying themselves. They were sixth fastest in N4 here. Fife and Harding was soldiering on, despite the previous day's puncture, which effectively put them out of contention. Duplessis was in the thick of the N4 battle and intent on giving it stick in the hope of a strong finish. With the N4 championship in his sights, he had to balance speed with the need to finish. Appeared more in the groove after the overnight and managed to beat Visser on this stage, but he has no real championship hopes. Was keeping it steady, second here in N4 and staying in touch with the front-running Wilkin. Wilkin's resolve to finish well, combined with a completely rebuilt car, made him hard to beat here.
Not where we should be. A little bit down, 1 second behind Fernando and about 5 or 6 behind Nicholas, and those are the two guys I've got to worry about now. So we will pick up the pace because I need to catch up what I lost in the tar stages yesterday. On the total, that 60k stage, I was 30 seconds behind Nick also after a couple of overshoots, and I took 1.5 minutes off there. So if needs be, I will go absolutely flat out in that stage.
Song, and they're putting us under pressure. They have been all event, you know, we've managed to just stay ahead of them. As you know, after the whole first day we were almost equal, so I think the pressure's on today. You know, we're waiting for the first guy to make the mistake. I think that's really the decider of the event. It's a lot of mileage to pass through right at the end. I think that's why Serge would probably be pushing very hard right now to try and make up a gap and go in there with a bit of a comfort zone. But, you know, if it comes to the crunch, I think we'll all have to go flat out in that stage. That's the nature of the sport, you know. You can't choose when you have to attack. And if we have to attack on the long stage, it's good. I think we have a reliable car. The VW hasn't given us a reliability problem all year long. So in that sense, it's a good car to attack a stage on.
Stage 7 was the same as Friday's Stage 2, and again it was Serge who put the hammer down. On this stage, he showed his rivals a thing or two, taking 11 seconds off Gemmell. Fecken was starting to lose touch with the front and needed something special to keep his victory hopes alive. He was beaten here by the N4 Subaru of Vulcan. JP Damso's pace was also a little off song, and he was pipped on this stage by an ever-improving Williams. The youngster is being tipped as a future star. Harvick set the same time as Williams, but was 3 seconds slower than an enthusiastic Lawrence. For Enzo, it was a disastrous stage after a wrong slot saw him lose more than a minute to the leaders. Gemmell was at it hammer and tongs and took a full 8 seconds off Lawrence. But on day 2, the undisputed king of the Swartland was Serge Damso, the only driver to break 15 minutes on this test. He remained firmly in the lead.
So far, everything is falling in place and the car's behaving itself, and the car's actually very good at the moment, so there's no really complaint. So, you know, the rally is a long way to go still, and there's only a few seconds in between, and you know, we've got 40 odds and another 30, so we've got about another 70 k's to do. You know, so anything, one overshoot and everything's all over. It must be the most competitive Formula at the moment we've had since I've been rallying, I think.
With the Toyotas in positions 1 and 2, Johnny Gemmell was in high spirits as well.
It's quite a bit different from the N4s, but no, it's nice when you drive it hard, it's nice.
For Fecken, the rally was going pear-shaped and the times were just not there.
Obviously hit something at the back, right rear puncture. Lost about 40 seconds and put us back quite a bit. We're now lying 5th, I think, yeah. And Etienne and JP's ahead of us. So it's hard work, we have to come back. I think the long stage is also going to play havoc. You know, you could just as well get a puncture there, or someone else could get a puncture. So I reckon on that stage it's going to change.
Nathan was turning out to be one of the surprises of the day. On this stage, Costa Kamantarakis raised a few eyebrows with an impressive time, rubbing shoulders with much quicker machinery. The rally chicks were going great guns. The experience of rallying in Africa has obviously impacted positively on their performance back home too. Pfeiffer and Harding were still putting their Lancer Evo 6 through its paces. Let's compare the lines and styles of Reuter in the Team Total Lancer Evo and the Pertec Subaru of Duplessis on the same stretch of road. Visser was just quicker here. Ryan wasn't hanging about either, intent on not letting Wilkin run away with the N4 class. The M3 gaggle is one of the feistiest groups in local rallying, and despite their junior status, these machines are tough to drive. With limited power and no LS diff, you have to maintain high cornering speeds and keep the momentum up if you want to be competitive. For Barry Grobelaar, an encounter with the guinea fowl got the adrenaline pumping, but cost him time on stage 7.
This morning was going to turn out to be a brilliant dice between the A7 cars. There's sort of 4 cars in a question of 20 or 30 seconds. And so we were really flying, putting it literally. And we met some obstacles in the road, being some guinea fowl. And I was doing about 160, I presume, when we hit them. So there was nothing much we could do. So we ended up hitting one in the center of the windscreen, which makes it rather difficult to see where you're going. The problem is now I can't see the left-handers that well, so I have to back off a little bit. The right-handers and straights, that's fine, we can keep going. So we're at this stage trying to see if we can find a windscreen somewhere, and hopefully we'll be able to change it in a stage or two. But if we can't find one, we'll have to try and finish the rally the way it is.
With 3 stages to go, Damso's lead was a slim 19 seconds. Fecken and Kuhn had both slipped back, with Lawrence moving up into 3rd and JP 4th. Hubich was still way down in 7th.
After the 2 repeat stages, stage 8 was the day's first new challenge. And although it looked relatively simple compared to the 44-kilometre plus penultimate test, it would start taking its toll on the teams. Was in a positive frame of mind.
My feeling is the last 49k gravel stage will be the decider and the tester, and you've got to keep the car going until then. But we had no drama with the car, really. It's held well together yesterday, did well on tar for me. And I think we're nearly at the end of our testing and sorting and trying this and trying that, so I feel it's now time to move forward.
While Gemmell had a disappointing stage, Wilken was flying, taking 3 seconds off the Toyota. The Swartland event is popular with spectators who flock to the well-marked spectator areas, usually on tight and spectacular farmyard routes. We caught up with Charles Wilken.
After real torrid season, seems like now the car is back on spec and going well. I think I must just drive a bit more because I'm still a bit cautious, and I'm not driving with real commitment yet, but yeah, we're still leading, so it's a good thing. Stage, if you take it too slow, you can lose a lot of time. If you go too quick, you might damage the car and lose a lot of time as well. So it's a calculated sort of risk you've got to take in that stage, and try and pace yourself.
Young John Williams continued to improve, and on this stage he was 4th fastest. For Kuhn and Hodgson, an overheating engine would spell the end of the rally, while Etienne Lawrence was slowed by a puncture. Let's look at the 2 very different cornering approaches of Damso and Harbich here. And another comparison. This time it's Wilken versus Rader on very similar lines. Serge Damso was 3rd fastest on this stage, but still very much in control in overall terms. Fecken was now fighting back after his mishap on stage 7, but he'd left it a little late, although he did move up the overall ladder. Vic made his intentions clear by posting the fastest time. He now knew that he would have to attack hard to make an impact on the front.
In A6, Stefan Vulcan was going strong. The A7 dice between the likes of Nathan, David and Hubert made for good spectating, even though they were competing for second place. First in class was still Cronje. In the N3 dice, Rodney Fasaki was still leading. We spoke to Cronje, who has already won the A7 title for the year.
We've just lost the power steering, so it was a bit nasty, but that's just par for the course. It's unfortunately how it goes. Yeah, but it's been a good day. I'd say the car performs well, it brakes well, it does everything well. I've been pacing myself with the N4s, and it's been a good day for me because, you know, the N4s have really upped their game. So it's been tricky for me to try and stay in there, and I've really always just used them as a benchmark and just try to keep it clean, be quick and keep it clean. It's just trying to train myself for hopefully the future. But the car has just performed faultlessly. I mean, it's really been good.
For regional competitor Jean Foucher, stage 8 held some problems. Fortunately, he managed to get going again. Route notes, introduced just over a year ago, make a fast rally like this safer. We asked some of the navigators to comment.
There were two objectives with the notes. So the one was the safety issue that at the pace that we're driving now, we really do need to know what's happening on the road. And secondly, to give the younger guys who coming up in the ranks now, to give them a more equal opportunity in terms of the road conditions. Our knowledge of the road after doing rallying for about 20 years is good, so we definitely did have the advantage before.
Definitely much safer. Our youngsters came up the pace much quicker, so yeah, it's working well, and if you look at the times, it's quite close, so yeah, you lose a second quickly now, so yeah, it's much safer, definitely.
Yeah, we're quite happy with the route nuts. They definitely suit Dargan and myself. It requires some serious commitment, and we've proven now that, you know, the more effort you put into it, the more you've got to gain.
And so, to the much-dreaded Stage 9, a 42-kilometre monster reduced from 46 kilometres due to the rain damage that most believed would determine the eventual outcome of the event. And how right they were. Let's look at the casualties first. Pfeiffer and Harding found Cronje and Birken limping along with a flat and overtook the Toyota. Cronje lost 4 minutes but retained the A7 lead. Volkswagen lost 2 of its 3 cars on this long, hot stage. Both Enzo and Hergen retired with engine failure. Enzo hit something hard, holed the sump, and then ran bearings when the sump ran dry. But Hergen's retirement was the more spectacular one. With fine grass being ingested into the lower air intake, overheating was inevitable, followed by an oil fire that had to be extinguished.
Yeah, we were going quite well in this stage. I think we were putting up a good stage time, and then Enzo fell out very early in the stage, and then we were first on the road, so we were cutting all the grass, and the radiator just got full of grass. I could see the temperature go up slightly, and then suddenly it caught fire.
Lawrence and Vermeulen were very lucky to escape with bruises after this spectacular roll, captured by a spectator. The car was comprehensively damaged.
We came down the straight. That mark, the jump is marked there. It says a bad jump caution, but we thought we can take it a bit faster than what we were not supposed to be that fast. I think we almost made it through, and we just landed on our nose, and then it just went. tail over the head for a couple of times, I don't know how many times, but
How many times did you roll?
Oh, I don't know. They say about 3-4 times, but it just stuck the nose into the gravel. And then it just went over and over. Not much you could do after that, you were just a passenger.
Now, let's take a look at that roll again. The rally chicks would also retire after breaking their radiator on this stage.
We hit a triple course. Well, I don't know what it was called. It was a jump. I don't remember actually after hitting it. We landed quite badly, so I think broken the radiator. But the gauge only went up just down the road here, so I thought, let me just take a chance. Put the heater on and, yeah, it doesn't want to go anymore. Better than railing.
Gugu Zulu's A7 debut came to a premature end when the new Polo's gearbox carrier bolt sheared. In N4, Visser du Plessis was going hard, but he was pipped by Reuter. Look at the way JP gets his Team Total Run-X airborne. Wilkin continued on his victorious N4 way, and John Williams was going better and better. Damso only managed third in class here, but was conserving his car in the interests of the overall win. Gemmell was pushing hard, perhaps still hoping to make an impact. Habich was continuing his characteristic late charge. Driving like a man possessed, he set another fastest time, pipping second place Gemmell by 19 seconds and Serge by a full minute. He jumped into second place. John Pacer and Brian Hoskins drove a consistent event. Costa Kumantarakis was third in N3 on this stage. Tony Ball in his final rally year drove with resolve despite some fuel line problems. Musa also suffered problems, but still managed to run second in N3. Hubert was second in A7 on this stage, just behind Chris de Wit. Visagie was leading N3. Nick Ryan made his Subaru fly on the stage, but was outgunned by his chief rivals. Despite the earlier bumper bashing, Busi Mabanga soldiered on in A5, as did his crash partner Pete Buckus. Even though there was good competition in A5, the Sasol Toyota Yaris of Claudio Piazzomusso scored its debut class win.
Clerk of the course Robert Moll wasn't going to make the last stage short or easy, and there were some anxious moments for the remaining crews who tackled the last Killarney stage. That the rally was running late and the weather was looking threatening didn't make matters any easier. It was a case of keeping it tidy, and the front runners were all bunched up pretty closely on the timesheets. Gemmell won the stage, while Wilkin's second fastest stage time overall was his best performance of the day, and an ominous reminder to his rivals that he's back. John Williams looked strong again, outpacing Habich by 2 seconds and JP by 1. The N4 gaggle behind Wilkin was squabbling for the minor production car placings, with Raider coming in best behind Scholl, with Visser and Ryan in close attendance. back, most of the A7s were packed in like sardines as they jockeyed for position, with Nathan the best of the rest behind Charles, followed by De Wit and Joubert. When the last laps had been completed, it was Serge Damso who took the well-deserved overall honours, with Habik's late chase earning him second place. Gemmell had to be content with third, while John Williams scored his best S2000 results to date. Not too many surprises in the classes, except perhaps for Piazza Musso in A5 and Vulcan in A6.
There was much celebration in the gloom of the late afternoon. The Toyotas had the measure of Volkswagen this time around, and the Polos were unable to respond, while also suffering uncharacteristic reliability problems. Charles Wilkin made a triumphant return to form, but is driving more within his capabilities and concentrating on winning N4 rather than chasing the S2000s. The M3s provided some giant killing performances, and the A7s also produced good rivalry.
Oh, we had a good event, and I mean, as I said yesterday, it was so close between Enzo and myself, and today we managed to open a gap, and the car behaved itself, and I really enjoyed the stages.
You know, the pace is very, very, very fast at the moment, and it's you know, the judgment call is there to decide to slow down or go fast over the rough stuff, and I think, you know, the line is very fine nowadays, and you need a bit of luck as well, obviously, but you know, the guys are all trying very, very hard.
For Yanni, it's a case of déjà vu. 2 years ago, he also unexpectedly found himself within grasp of the championship.
Yeah, look, it's down to the wire, and we'll approach it